Yes, as mild-mannered as Clark Kent, and as steely, perhaps, as a superhero. David Toulis here, thinking about the city council meeting that will be starting at 6 this evening. The council members who are not well paid, they're sort of quasi-volunteers, will be in study groups this afternoon, which is city council day for them. Probably much of the day given over to emails and making appointments with constituents and finding out what will be happening at the meeting. If there's some vote on a zoning request that maybe needs a look, some just can get a perfunctory glance on the agenda, which of course they look at well ahead of time and have in view. Sometimes people call them about things coming on the agenda, ask for a meeting, ask for a visit out, say in part of the borough in which that person represents. But 6 o'clock, the council gets together to govern, or is might be a more apt word, to administer things in Chattanooga. There's more administration in Chattanooga than government, it seems, though in the county, the manner is entirely different. I went to a county commission meeting Wednesday, and there's a much different flavor. There's much more discussion about issues. There's seemingly more at stake in the county, though the city is worth far more in terms of its gross assets and its net wealth. I think it's worth just under $3 billion. And the county, I'm not remembering now the numbers, but probably a tenth of that. Well, not a tenth, maybe a fifth of that, or a fourth of that, maybe a third of that. David Toulis here at Chattanooga Radio. Thanks for tuning into the program. Always glad to have you just give me a few minutes of your time. I'm the blogger with the biggest pen, and the one they call Dr. Nooga-centric, because somehow in my mind, Chattanooga is the center of the universe, and important people, important places far away in Nashville, Washington, New York, and Brussels, maybe Moscow. They're not really that important, and we can almost ignore what they're saying and doing if we rather give our time to making things better here. And the city council is an interesting body. I'm learning to get to know the names of the members, and having chatted with several, well, all of them at one point or the other, as your man in town asking the dumb questions, because that is what I try to do, is ask the dumb questions that sometimes are kind of throwing of the elected official. But when I say that city council administers more than governs, that's it's not a compliment. I'm not saying something complimentary, because what I suggest in the distinction is that when there's government, there are things that are done, positive actions which are done. Now, I'm not suggesting that we have more programs. We'll leave that to the mayor's office to create new programs. It's not so much that positive things have to be done, but negative things in the city have to be stopped. That's really where I suggest the work in city council belongs, and the work has been suggested by innumerable speakers in the public speaking section at the end of the meeting, when the meeting is effectively over, and now we have time to hear from the hoi polloi, if you will, the voters, the people who are have an interest in the city, work here, live here, maybe run businesses, or have something to say. It's an open forum, because people don't have to be strictly residents in the city. I remember one time there was a person from out of town who took the microphone and had his 5 minutes, or her 5 minutes, to speak. It was on the issue, as I recall, of the ban on panhandling. There was an out of town speaker who ordinarily would not be allowed. If you were saying Red Bank, well, you can't speak the Red Bank City Commission unless you are a resident of the city. But here in Chattanooga, it's much more open, though there are complaints from activists such as Chris Dahl and Marie Mott about the time limits and the restriction that is imposed by the House rules, effectively, that say a person can speak only twice within a 30-day period. Well, the council seems to be dormant. And sometimes when I hear discussions, particularly touching on the most controversial part of city government that remains in controversy, not daily, but almost daily, the Chattanooga Police Department. there is a sense among the council members of not knowing what's happening. Somehow, it's almost as if they're restating a translation of a report about doings on a foreign planet. Okay, so you have a translation, number one, and then it's reporting doings in a faraway country or another planet, and they're all getting it. They're getting it sort of filtered and refiltered, and it's kind of muzzled and muffled when they get it. And so the message isn't clear. The sense of duty is not clear. The connection with the parties being described as, let's say, police victims, that's not clear either. I'm thinking of Noah McLemore, the man who runs Footworks on Highway 58 with his routine abuse. Okay, this was a Terry pat-down search of this man standing in front of his shoe store, smoking a cigarette, wearing a wife beater T-shirt, and being clearly in his melanin content, a man with very high melanin content, and subject to police interrogation and pat down, and effectively a seizure for no reason, absolutely no reason, and that has not been understood, and it has not. And I'm just remembering I need to get back with Christy Gillenwater, the CEO of the Chattanooga Chamber of Commerce, whom I asked to see something in this direction, and I'm just remembering I'll need to go back down there and effectively say, okay, this is a free market issue, a business issue, and I'd like to know what you have to say about it. You being the largest business lobby in Chattanooga, with your 2 or 3 divisions, the council in dealing with policing is not being aggressive. And well, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for another cop outbreak, as I like to call them here on David Tulis Show. And the number is 800-8949. Do feel free. Do feel at liberty to call me with whatever is on your mind. You can change the topic. We are having a conversation, and if you want me to proceed, I will certainly do so. I'm very obliged to you. Thank you. But if there's something you want to add to spice things up a little bit, you are free to do that. The number is 800-8949, 800-8949. We're brought to you by Nuganomics.com, and also by Router Pros, a highly aggressive drill down into your underfloor muck plumber, Router Pros in Cohutta. And make sure you go to the GoFundMe website, GoFundMe.com, and check out the David Tulis Show. Trying to raise a little enough to pay a tip to my colleagues here at the radio station for the time that I'm granted as your host here at 1 o'clock every day, just between our 1 hour newscast, local newscast, and Sean Hannity at 3 o'clock. So so David, you're complaining a lot about things. Well, what do you propose? Well, okay, let's just throw a couple things out there. One I think will, and I want it to shock your conscience. Okay, I want you, my conservative listener, if you are that listener, to have your conscience shocked by this proposal. But number one, it should be a firing offense to use obscenity on the job. If you are reported to have used an obscene word with anything touching on the casual use of rape or the sexual abuse of a person, that is a firing offense. And so what we're going to do is clean up the vocabulary of officers. Where I've this morning I was looking at things, and there was a police encounter between a homeless man, or a man with a bag of possessions, and 2 officers in Buffalo, and the F word just fell from their lips as if it were a preposition, and that something like that should be a firing offense, just plain out firing. And so we want the officers to mind the ethics rules that they have, which do talk about respect for the citizenry, and to make a good impression that the officers represent the law. Not that they should legally, but they do. Okay, they practically do. They are law enforcement. So there should be no obscenity. It should be a firing offense, and that's something that you say, oh man, my best sergeant is out because of this stupid rule. That's how that rule would be seen by all the officers, and it would be something requiring sterilization of their their lingual organs, right? Their tongues have to be sterilized. And that's very unpleasant because, when you're in the heat of the passion, right, that's when things slip out. Well, let's have less passion than more, the least passion required. And so if there's a traffic stop, let's not escalate. Okay, let's de-escalate. That's the whole escalation idea. Well, really, it's an ideal. Really, it's not. It's a higher state of being when you de-escalate, and in fact, never escalate at all. That is what we want to have among these men and women. Unlike the Noah McLemore ideal. Here's the one that I think should shock my militarized cop and my pro-war, pro-imperium friends out there, and that would be that police should not have uniforms at all. They should wear business suits. They should wear slacks, and their insignia should be a badge, a metal badge that they wear. And they should not have military uniforms, and they should not be in armor. They have a very safe profession. Policing is not a dangerous profession. There are probably 15 professions far more lethal than that. And so there could be an entire change of relationship between officers who are benefactors, right? Are officers benefactors or malefactors? That's the question. In most neighborhoods, cops are viewed as malefactors, evildoers, right? They are troublemakers. They are people who take men from houses. They are people who abduct women. In a way, they're viewed as human traffickers. You just have to kind of, be careful around them because they may take you away for a day or two in poor or black neighborhoods. And so if you don't have uniforms anymore, that changes the attitude of the prospective victims or a person being aided by the officer, right? And it also changes how the man or woman thinks of his job. Right? He's no longer part of a military organization, which is vertically integrated and highly turf conscious, right? He's no longer in that organization. He is providing a public service. He is a city employee. Again, he's not a separate rank. De-uniformization would bring the officer back into the common pool of humanity because now they're not like us, right? They're not like you. The name is David Toulis, and the number is 800-8949, 800-8949. Make sure you come Saturday and Sunday to the Wings Over North Georgia Air Show, right? That's at Russell Regional Airport, and that's in North Georgia. Just tell your phone where to take you, and you may have some dead zones down there, but it is somewhere in North Georgia, right? It is in North Georgia, and we will be there. You can see all kinds of fine military gear, our government's finest assets, as we like to say, the Warthog, Huey and Cobra helicopter. You can buy a ticket at wingsovernorthgeorgia.com. That's wingsovernorthgeorgia.com. Now, another minor reform, again, it would be a big deal for the city council to think about it. But another one would be requiring every officer to buy $5 million of personal liability coverage in case of another, as they say euphemistically, an officer-involved shooting. Right? We should not use the phrase officer-involved shooting. Right? It is a euphemism, purely a euphemism. It makes a bad thing look good. We should say a cop killing. Okay, that would be a proper term. If the bullet comes from the cop's gun, it's a cop killing. Okay, now whether it's a murder, a manslaughter, or just a killing, a righteous, statutorily justified execution that's covered by the immunity statute. Well, that's to be determined, but it is a killing. A cop killing is the proper term. Officer-involved shooting makes it imply that somehow the other side had a lot to do with it, or maybe was responsible for it. And sometimes, no doubt, the civilian has a weapon, maybe pointed momentarily at the officer, not knowing that is a capital offense to do that, and that person is shot down in a fusillade of 9mm or 40 caliber bullets. There are two main. Oh, just by the way, if you go to our Facebook page, Chattanooga Radio, I have a link, an outbound link to the paper by Chuck Wexler. It's about 3 years old now, maybe 4 years old, called 30 Guiding Principles for the Use of Force. And that is at our Facebook page. But there you'll find suggestions on numerous things. And the three main elements of police reform And the city council should know about this, right? And it doesn't. It doesn't really have any ideas about this. And this is a book, 136 pages. It's free. Not everything at the Police Executive Research Forum is free. You have to buy some of the things, but this one is of note, of great note, I would say. And yeah, the number 800-8949, 800-8949. But the study found that agencies spend a median of 58 hours to recruit training on firearms and another 49 hours on defensive tactics. But guess how much? Just guess how much on de-escalation, crisis intervention, and electronic control weapons use. Guess how many hours? Okay, the things that are mild and gracious and maybe helpful to someone who's having a crisis. And we have many, many people who are on opioids, who are having personal problems, who are psychologically wounded from having been years in public school, perhaps. They are not in their right mind. They're at war with themselves. Their souls are in schism, and they are having an episode. And well, how many hours? Why don't you call me and tell me what you think the time spent on training for de-escalation and crisis intervention is? How many hours? You've got 49 hours on defensive tactics at the Recruit Academy, 58 hours on killing people with guns. Okay, that's in fact, officers are prepared to kill so many people that many of them have 3 magazines plus 1 in the gun. So they're ready for combat. They're ready for I'm not sure what, but they're ready for the worst. And it is part of a culture of we are at war. Okay, we are at war, and the people, any person can kill you. Okay? Any person can kill you, and the officers are trained that way, according to the Atlantic Monthly, around the country, vigorously on that point. So that point number 1 is change the training requirements, review the statute, see what's in the statute that can be adjusted. The other major reform is the proper enforcement of Title 55, that is to say, the transportation statute. And we'll look today at this question. Why are you, my listener, not required to have a DOT number on the side of your door of your car? Why are you not involved in that? And how come you haven't made submission to the city's Department of Transportation? Why are you on the road without being subject to the city's transportation department? Why not? Are you not involved in transportation when you get into your car and go to church? Are you not involved in transportation when you take the children to Vandergrift Park or go to the lake of a summer day? Well, maybe you are, maybe you're not. So we're going to look at that. Why it is that you are or are not subject to the Tennessee Passenger Transportation Services Act, which is that's a statute that's enough to put you to sleep. But it's in chapter, it's in Title 7. So it's Justin Strickland, who runs the hotel business, oversees the taxi board, and sent me the rules. They run I don't know how many pages do they run, but they run maybe 100 pages, all kinds of things on taxis. Well, why is it that you are not subject to the taxi rules and city government? And how come you don't have to have a DOT number on your car? So city council is meeting tonight, and we are hoping for the very best. I'm not sure how to make the inertia stop. I'm not sure how to make it so that there's actual discourse in city council. You know, if you were a member of city council, you know what you would do? You know what you would do? You would say, I've got an argument to make to y'all, and I'm going to go around down here to the front microphone where the common people stand, right? The common people like Marie Mott stand and make a digression. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to pretend I'm one of them, because I want you to understand an argument, and I want you to hear a position. It'll take 10 minutes, and please give me leave to do that. Nothing like that happens. No one ever has any discussion. There's no discussion in city council of anything. Well, there may be some technical discussion. There may be some query, perhaps, of John Bridger, the head of the regional planning agency. But that's about it. There are no ideas. It's not a place of ideas. It's not a group of people who have ideas. Now, if you were on the city council you, my listener, I bet that you would be someone who say, we've got to make some changes here. We've got to make either things that are of a positive nature, or we're going to do something which is a positive ethic. Or you might, if you're like me, I'm arguing that the city should work in a negative, right? To stop doing something that's evil and wicked and, well, extortionate. The city's involved in a practical extortion outside the scope of the statute in the transportation law. So that's the second big reform. The first would be changing the train schedules grievously in a major way, and the other one would be proper enforcement of the transportation law upon people involved in transportation, but not beyond that barrier there laid down by the statute. David Tool, listening to radio. Call me 800-8949, 800-8949.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Morris Fitton is accused in a home invasion assault. He was also investigated in a homicide case. It happened Thursday. 39-year-old Fitton is accused of breaking into his ex-wife's house with his cousin on Standifer Gap, wielding a gun and a baseball bat. The new husband was beaten with the bat, and the ex-wife was shot twice, but she survived. Police believe Fitton was also involved in a homicide earlier in the year. The town of Dunlap in mourning after a sudden and unexpected loss. The Dunlap Fire Department confirming in a Facebook post. Vice Mayor and City Manager Jeff Johnson suddenly died after suffering an allergic reaction to a bee sting. And he was on the TBI's top 10 most wanted list. Now he's in jail. 23-year-old O'Shea Williams was captured in Detroit, Michigan. Williams is accused in the murder of Cortez Alford on Arlington Avenue in July. Williams will remain in custody in Detroit until he can be extradited to Chattanooga. Val St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News now.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM.
Cash, and more cash. Get 8.1% return on your money. Rick Davis can turn your cash into real money. Gold and silver bullion. American Eagle Gold. The banks give you a measly 1.9%. At Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, you'll get 8.1% return on your money. 8.1% return on your money. Wow! Whether you're buying an ounce or 100 ounces, Rick guarantees it in writing. 8.1% Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Raider Road, Chattanooga.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick in money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McCarty Ford at FortPayne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
Join Nooga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
It's that time of year again. For the 7th year, Wings Over North Georgia Air Show will be Saturday, October the 13th, and Sunday, October the 14th. You'll see some of our government's finest assets flying in the world today. The rarely seen Air Combat F-22 Raptor demo team and the A-10 Warthog will both headline the show, along with Tora Tora Tora, which is the reenactment of Pearl Harbor to include pyrotechnics. Patty Wagstaff and Michael Goulian, both world aerobatic champions, will be showing off their amazing skills, along with numerous other aviation rock stars. On the ground, you'll be able to experience military static displays and even have an opportunity to ride in a Huey or Cobra helicopter. Wings Over North Georgia is an action-packed way to spend a weekend with your family. You can even camp on the grounds. The Richard B. Russell Regional Airport is the place for all the action on October the 13th and the 14th. For tickets and camping reservations, visit wingsovernorthgeorgia.com.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anyway.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 12, right here on Nooga Radio.
Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect mostly cloudy, warm, but mainly dry weather out there for your afternoon. Highs settling into the lower 80s. Tonight, some leftover clouds feeling tropical, lows only near 70. For Wednesday, cloudy, breezy, highs 80 to 82 with a few passing showers Wednesday night through Thursday morning. Get ready for the Wings Over North Georgia Air Show this Saturday and Sunday at the Russell Regional Airport in Rome, featuring the U.S. Air Force F-22 Raptor and A-10 Warthog. For tickets, wingsovernorthgeorgia.com. And I'm Soren Sheen, 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
I argue that near is better than far, small than big, and simple than complex. And there are footnotes in my work usually, and they are in Helvetica type. The whole is in Helvetica type, the neutral Swiss font. And you get those reader glasses on so you can read it. And it says in that small type there, physical is better than corporate, and personal is personal is better than corporate, and physical is better than abstract. In other words, a silver coin like the Morgan dollars I have in my pocket are better than a paper dollar, or better than an abstract dollar on my account at the credit union. Okay, so that's what I'm saying there. That one is inherently substantial, the other one is ephemeral, and part of the modern, you might say, postmodern humanistic ideosphere economy. And so physical is better than abstract. We're brought to you by Nuganomics.com, the website for the man who matters, and it does some heavy lifting. I have a piece that I wrote yesterday, well, actually very early this morning, about my cockroach battle and how I'm winning my cockroach battle at home. And it's a very heartening and bracing story that has, you might see, a tiny bit of advice on how to do that in a natural, non-chemical, and inexpensive way, using not a blast of neurotoxin that causes the cockroach to scurry and wriggle and writhe instantly, but one that works a gentle death that lasts for some time as the liquids drain slowly from 1,000 cuts from the little weggies, little hairy weggies of the cockroach, and under his belly. And as he starts writhing in agony, he flops over on his back. And from there, you can see in the photograph that I have of one of these poor creatures on his back. Even there, he is in the powder that I have laid. The same powder that is a great preservative for rice and wheat berries. If you do any home baking and home grinding of wheat, as my family used to do a great deal of, homeschool children, right? With little businesses at home, that white powder is part of the story. So that's something coming. But the heavy lifting I did was yesterday, finally exposing the whole rules of notice and my wonderful little story about being a journalist whose big storyline is the law, reading the law and getting very chummy with the law, and wanting to put to death quickly certain practices and raise and resurrect other practices that are healthy, free market oriented, prosperous, optimistic, cheerful, glad, part of human flourishing. That's what I write about. How do we have more human flourishing in Chattanooga and Helena County and points beyond? If you're just passing through, you're on the highway, you're just going through the Ridge Cut, I do thank you for tuning in here. Chattanooga's a great place to live. Helena County, a wonderful, wonderful place to live. We have reforms to make, no doubt, but Tennessee has many advantages over other states. Its government is mild. It's the state of Tennessee is a religious corporation. It has a certain mildness about it. And there are many good things here. We're the volunteer state for a reason, and business friendly. There are good things happening in the General Assembly among Republicans have been helpful in the effort of market oriented Tennesseans to push back the administrative state to effectively deconstruct perhaps the administrative state in Nashville. It's very slow, of course, and not anywhere near as fast as I would like, but I am glad for it. There's a prospect Thursday of the execution of Edmund Zagorski, who killed two men, John Dotson and Jimmy Porter, in 1983. They were going to buy some marijuana from him, but he killed them, robbed them, and killed them, slitting their throats, and is facing the electric chair, which is what he would want, but he's in line for a lethal injection. And the story in today's paper is about the secret dealings of judges and attorneys making their last minute filings for relief. And the High Court in Tennessee ruled that not enough evidence was shown, according to TV9's account of this story, by his team that said that the 3-drug protocol that's in view for use on Thursday is unconstitutional, so there is a dissent apparently also by Justice Sharon Lee. And the story I mention that simply because there's a local economy preference for capital punishment, if you didn't know, and I'm one of the writers I want to mention that touches on this, a copy of which I sent a copy of this book yesterday by PDF to a man who's going to be on the program this week, who's very concerned about injustice and abuse by courts. And it's called Victims' Rights, The Biblical View of Civil Justice by Gary North. Gary North is probably the most important living writer since the death of R.J. Rushdoony about 10 years ago. He is a reformed author. He's an economist. He's a prolific analyst of the scriptures, and has done an economic commentary on the Old Testament, book by book. Over the years, I've read quite a few of them. And in the Victims' Rights, which is part of the Biblical Blueprint series, I think probably the early 90s when it came out, he discusses capital punishment. And one of the points he makes there, and I believe there, and also in one of his essays at his website, perhaps reposted at LouRockwell.com, is the impersonal nature of the modern carceral punitive system of justice that we have. It's not justice anymore. And he says that in the Old Testament Israel, capital punishment was personal. And that is the law of God, of course, requiring that the witness to a capital offense be the one to throw the first stone. So the witness is involved in the capital punishment, and everybody in town is too. So if someone receives a death sentence for a capital offense, the witnesses throw the first stones to death, and then everybody in town does the same thing. And why is that? Well, because they're vindicating God's law. The murderer, let's say, or the rapist or the kidnapper, that person has offended God first and the victim second. And so the vindication first is of God and his commands, and then the secondarily it is the vindication of the victim, who can't be restored to life, obviously, but whose death is being given an equitable treatment, and that is to say, under the doctrine of lex talionis, the eye for eye, tooth for tooth, wound for wound, stripe for stripe, burn for burn doctrine, which is, of course, to say justice, right? Americans and modern people have no sense of what is just. We have extraordinary punishments for things that are not punishable at all. We don't punish things that deserve death, right? We allow rapists to live, murderers to live, and people who are thieves are put away and with no eye toward restitution. So the objection here that North makes in his biblical analysis of executions is that right belongs to the people. And the use of the stone is important because the stone is the most basic weapon, right? The stone is the lowest grade weapon you can find. And a man deserving of death, such as Zagorski, is killed by the least defensible weapon, the least complex weapon belonging to in the hand of every man. Every man can have a stone, right? Every man is armed with a stone at the very least. Now, some men have swords, some have knives, some have 9mm. There are different gradations of power and complexity in your weaponry, but the stone is the basic weapon, and the basic means in that report by God to man of how that is to be done. So every man has a role. It's done quickly and swiftly. No one is excluded. Everyone has a hand in vindicating God's justice by that execution. It's not as we have today in isolation, in a bureaucracy where there are impersonal forces working, anonymous faces working. The hood. Think of the hood on the head of the executioner. The executioner is given a tip by the victim to make sure that the blade is sharp. And that the death occurs with not multiple choppings on the neck, but a single clean blow. It's a personal matter in the Middle Ages. And now it's totally impersonal, but we have other strange things as well to make note of. David Tool is here. The number 800-8949, 800-8949. Make sure that Thursday's coming up will be at the Starbucks restaurant, coffee shop at 10 North. That's on North Shore, 10 North. And the festivities are Thursday at 7 p.m., the Gridiron Gang Show, all about sports, of course, and focusing on high school sports. That's the Gridiron Gang Show, live at the Starbucks on the North Shore. Gridiron Gang Show. Come out and join Nougat Radio, have a coffee, have a bagel perhaps, and you can overhear some of the conversation, but we are there, and that is that's something that to enjoy, take part in on the North Shore. If you have just a moment to divert yourself, maybe you should take that moment, right? You are a very hardworking man. Now, I want to let you know that I'm a great fan of strongtowns.org, and I'm particularly admiring a writer named Nolan Gray. I've interviewed him a couple times, and he has a great story. This is the website for the man or the woman who cares about local economy in a professional way. Okay, no, not me. I'm just an amateur. I do local economy. I've been arguing local economy for maybe 7 years now as a you might say a rhetoric, a way of analyzing the world and espousing let's say godly virtues. Okay, but espousing in my listener the idea of belonging, right? Belonging here, belonging to Chattanooga. Now, these ideas of mine, they apply really wherever you might be. I mentioned Chattanooga just because in God's providence I'm here. We're in East Ridge, it's a studio, but we are a Chattanooga station. And, Saudi Daisy, Red Bank, Ottawa, Tiftonia, I still call it that. We are essentially Chattanooga, oriented Chattanooga center. We are at the center of the universe. And my argument is that we belong here. We're not here by accident. And you, even though you may be a man or maybe a woman with problems, you've got problems with your boss, you've got problems with your business, you're not here by mistake. And so the rule for me is how can I make you more useful to your customer, first of all, to your family. Well, first of all, to your family, then to your customer, and then to your city, especially people in our city who are really under oppression, whose lives are unbelievably difficult, whose woes are multiplied, whose poverty is manifest. These people, some of the ones who are perhaps in the county jail. We have 1,000. We have in Hamilton County Jail by the last report, I would say published in the TFP, maybe Saturday's edition, 1,708 708 inmates in the jail. About half of which are too poor to get out. They're stuck there before trial, unable to make a defense, and their family lives ruined by the fact that they don't have $100 or $500 to pay the bondsman. They don't have the means of paying the bond itself, which is the whole amount. The bondsman's fee is 10%, and so either way they're in woe. And so, what can you, my listener, do to help that person, right? And people like that. What can we do to help people to avoid that situation? And what can we do about the machinery of government, the judicial industrial complex, perhaps we could call it, that makes it so routine that we don't even think about it. It's not even in discussion. There's no problem here, right? There's nothing to solve. There's nothing to pray about for Christian people. There's no prayer needed here. This is just the way things are. If people can't get their acts together, they deserve to be in jail, right? If they do something wrong, well, they deserve to be there. This, of course, is the kind of offhand way that we see things. And so the strong towns are the professional local economy people. I'm the amateur, right? Just the amateur. David Toole is here. 800-8949 is the number, 800-8949. And Nolan Gray's argument is that wide streets are a tool of oppression. Now, I love this concept, and I really appreciate how he says that. And it's striking to think that our widest streets in this country are part of a military project. They are federal military jurisdictions, which are called the interstate highways, and they serve a military purpose. Highways and rail systems are part of the machinery of war, or as we like to say, the machinery of defense. Right? We're not warmongers. We are defenders always in our country. Americans, we're not aggressive. No, we are always defending, or always upholding the Constitution. Right? In our wars and our invasions, that's always the goal. Read in the TFP this morning, the left-hand page. There's 3 writers who are military men, and they are disappointed in the country, and yet it's part of their expression of disappointment about the country's loss of moral bearing. They uphold the theory, the fantasy perhaps that all wars are about upholding the Constitution and defending liberty and so on. That any left-wing editor, Pam Son, would put something like that out there. It's just so silly. It could be on the right-hand page just as well or just as badly. And I would say that Clint Cooper would be making the same mistake to get that out there. But wide streets are bad for cities, Nolan Gray says. They encourage faster driving, which makes other road users like pedestrians and bicyclists and other people less safe. They consume a lot of land, he points out, pushing us further apart, he says, and exacerbating the problems of spread out auto-dependent development, which is one big problem that Chuck Marohn and his colleagues identify and write a lot about. Without some mechanism for pricing street use, such as congestion tolling, he says, roads serve mostly to make traffic worse through a phenomenon known as induced demand. So if you have a wider road, you're going to get more traffic. It doesn't relieve traffic, it creates more traffic, right? Each of these facts is on its own militates against the widening of urban roads or piercing new highways through our beleaguered downtowns. But here he says the thing he wants to get to now, the point he wants to make is that wide urban roads have historically been tools of oppression. This is a kind of shocking statement, and could begin and could be again in any number of imaginable futures. Narrow streets, he says, create spaces that are easy for local residents to defend and blockade from invaders and state agents. Their winding nature and dynamic street frontage tends to thwart, he says, any one centralized vision, instead creating a framework for decentralized planning. And he says, as we'll discuss, this is not mere speculation, but a plain fact known to those in power, which has helped to motivate many of the infamous street widening projects through history. He talks about the one in Paris in 1853 under at the time of Napoleon, and there are others as well that he mentions. I like the idea, though, of kind of a cranky neighborhood, right? A cranky neighborhood which is not organized, right? It's not there. There's no main thoroughfare. It's just this sort of creaky little lefts and rights and oddment lots, houses that are chaotic, that are kind of jumbled. Some well off, some not so well off. I live in Saudi Daisy, and every day on the way home, I pass what we call the Houston House. This was a man who overbuilt in mid-level, well, let's say low mid-level range area of the town. Rural, it's a kind of a rural setting, and my house is maybe on the slider upper side of that mid-range quality and value house. It's on the top of a hill surrounded by forest. My mother's house, the widow house, the granny house, is on the very top of the hill, if you will, and my house is just a few feet below that peak. But the Houston house was overbuilt, and you could say, well, I'm forgetting the point that why I'm mentioning that, but it's okay. The whole idea of things being sort of mixed up. Well, that's the way it should be. That's the way human life is. You go down the street, sit in a cafe. Well, you're going to find all kinds of people in that cafe. You're going to find someone on the margin of criminality. You're going to find someone talking about a loan, someone with his wife and children. Over on the next table, you have a couple of illicit lovers talking about how the threat of his wife finding out about their shenanigans. Right? You've got college students poring over biology textbooks in the next place. So you have a great mixture, and society is like that. And I'd suggest that if you have a zoning-free and free city without large boulevards, without anybody planning, right? The idea of someone planning a large boulevard, you're going to be better off. You're going to have fewer large boulevards, more distinct neighborhoods that are not as easily passed through. Right? You're going to have more places where people feel like they belong, and there's a certain immunity from outside stress, perhaps, that section has, because the streets are small and narrow. David Toulis, Nigger Radio.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Morris Fenton is accused in a home invasion assault. He was also investigated in a homicide case. It happened Thursday. 39-year-old Fenton is accused of breaking into his ex-wife's house with his cousin on Standifer Gap, wielding a gun and a baseball bat. The new husband was beaten with the bat, and the ex-wife was shot twice, but she survived. Police believe Fenton was also involved in a homicide earlier in the year. The town of Dunlap in mourning after a sudden and unexpected loss. The Dunlap Fire Department confirming in a Facebook post, Vice Mayor and City Manager Jeff Johnson suddenly died after suffering an allergic reaction to a bee sting. And he was on the TBI's top 10 most wanted list. Now he's in jail. 23-year-old O'Shea Williams was captured in Detroit, Michigan. Williams is accused in the murder of Cortez Alford on Arlington Avenue in July. Williams will remain in custody in Detroit until he can be extradited to Chattanooga. Val St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio 92.7. Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect mostly cloudy, warm, but mainly dry weather out there for your afternoon. High settling into the lower 80s tonight. Some leftover clouds feeling tropical, lows only near 70. For Wednesday, cloudy, breezy, highs 80 to 82 with a few passing showers Wednesday night through Thursday morning. Get ready for the Wings Over North Georgia Air Show this Saturday and Sunday at the Russell Regional Airport in Rome, featuring the U.S. Air Force F-22 Raptor and A-10 Warthog. For tickets, wingsovernorthgeorgia.com. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ford.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Buying a home is one of the most exciting things you will ever do, but it can also be scary and nerve-wracking. I'm Melanie Moore, owner and certified master inspector with Full Disclosure Property Inspection. Let me help calm those nerves by putting my 37 plus years of experience in the construction and inspection industry to work for you, providing you a thorough, well-explained quality inspection to make sure this home of your dreams doesn't become your nightmare. Call me, Melanie Moore, at 255-1300 or find me online at fdhomeinspection.com.
My ex recently hacked my email and my social media, and it really caused me some problems. I changed all my passwords, which helped, but I'm still getting trolled, maybe even stalked. I know it's him. I just can't prove it.
My business, well, it's been broken into twice already. I've got cameras, but that only helps after the fact. I'd rather prevent it from happening in the first place.
Unity One East is your solution to these and many other security concerns. With private investigation, security services, and backed by decades of real-life experience in military and law enforcement, Unity One East is your instant contact for security, investigation, and consultation to help protect you, your family, and your business. No 1-800 number, no red tape, no wait, because Unity One East is local and available 24/7. Reclaim your peace of mind. Call Unity One East, 475-6206, 475-6206.
Call 423-875-3600 if you're looking to expand your professional look of your business. Then consider the vast opportunities that are available when you locate your office with the Raines Group family. Remember, it's location, location, location. And the Raines Group has the location for your professional office. Check out the spaces for lease at Executive Business Park on the Lee Highway. Small or large, we will be able to suit your needs with the Raines Group. Call 423-875-3600 for the business.
WPLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga.
Serving Chattanooga.
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe, the Tennessee Valley's most listened to news talk station.
Chattanooga Radio 92.7.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by ZipRecruiter.
I'm Jim Sheneby. Florida is bracing for Hurricane Michael.
The time to prepare is right now. This storm is dangerous, and if you don't follow warnings from officials, this storm could kill you.
Governor Rick Scott.
We are already seeing a significant number of mandatory evacuations being ordered in counties across the Panhandle. If you're under evacuation order, listen to it. Leave now.
Correspondent Omar Villafranca is in Panama City Beach.
This particular area, we're expecting anywhere from 6 to 9 feet of storm surge. But just to give you an idea of the reach of Michael, over in Tampa, they could get 2 to 4 feet of storm surge, and that's about 200 miles away from where we are right now.
And Michael currently on track to make landfall along the central Panhandle coast early tomorrow afternoon as a Category 3 storm. It currently has Category 2 winds of 110 miles per hour. President Trump losing his UN ambassador as Nikki Haley has decided to leave that post. Stephen Portnoy reports.
Nikki Haley says after 6 years as a governor and 2 years at the UN, she's ready to step aside.
I have given everything I've got these last 8 years.
Her impending departure appears amicable. Haley sat alongside the president in the Oval Office.
Hopefully you'll be coming back at some point, but you want to just, in maybe a different capacity. You can have your pick.
Without even being asked, Haley said she won't run for president in 2020.
I can promise you what I'll be doing is campaigning for this one. So I look forward to supporting the president in the next election.
So good. Thank you, Nikki.
Stephen Portnoy, CBS News, the White House.
The president says Secretary of State Pompeo had good talks with North Korean leader Kim over the weekend, and the next summit between the two leaders is on track.
I think eventually we're going to have lots of meetings on U.S. soil and on their soil, by the way. It's just, that's a two-way street. On their soil also.
The president says 3 or 4 locations are now under consideration and the timing, quote, won't be too far away. An update on that horrific limo accident in upstate New York over the weekend that left 20 dead.
I'm Matt Piper in Schoharie, New York. Prestige Limos, which owns the modified SUV involved in the crash, has had 22 violations during inspections in the last 2 years. The Ford Excursion from Saturday's crash had just failed inspection on September 4th.
The owner of the limo says all of the issues raised in that inspection were fixed before Saturday's crash. The nominees have been announced for next year's class of inductees to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. They include Todd Rundgren, Devo, John Prine, Roxy Music, Def Leppard, Radiohead, Janet Jackson, The Cure, and Stevie Nicks. On Wall Street right now, the Dow is down 34. The NASDAQ is up 2. This is CBS News.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. ZipRecruiter's technology finds qualified candidates for businesses of all sizes. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Commence Exxon and Mobil field test. Scientist observed subject B at station. Subject B earns Exxon and Mobil rewards plus points she can use to save on gas, coffee, car washes, and more. Subject B should share the wealth and buy me a coffee. Subject B looks like she's leaving. Subject B hasn't purchased me anything yet. Subject B has left. Conclusion, Exxon and Mobil Rewards Plus makes refueling rewarding, and Subject B owes me a coffee. Perhaps a donut.
Sign up today at ExxonMobilRewardsPlus.com. Terms and conditions apply. Available at participating Exxon or Mobil branded locations.
This do-it-right savings tip is brought to you by The Home Depot. With the guaranteed lowest prices on top brand name appliances like Samsung, GE, LG, and Whirlpool, The Home Depot is your home improvement headquarters. Saving on appliances has never been easier, with free shipping on over 1 million items. That's right, we'll deliver them for free to your house or the store. No membership required. Visit HomeDepot.com/appliances for details. The Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
A controversial rapper will be meeting Thursday with a controversial president.
From SNL to the White House.
Love is the new money.
Spokeswoman Sarah Sanders confirms Kanye West will have lunch with President Trump on Thursday. The New York Times says the rapper, with a penchant for Make America Great Again hats, wants to talk about prison reform, jobs for former convicts, and his hometown of Chicago. West's wife, Kim Kardashian, convinced the president to commute Alice Johnson's life sentence in a drug-related case. Deborah Rodriguez, CBS News.
If you're gluten sensitive, be advised, new study found a third of the gluten-free foods sold in U.S. restaurants actually contain trace amounts. Gluten, protein in wheat and other grains can cause damage to the intestinal lining of people with celiac disease and autoimmune disorder. The worst offenders were pizza and pasta, where more than half of those billed as gluten-free actually contained levels of the protein. Jim Chenevey, CBS.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A student says she was sexually assaulted at Lee University by a knife-wielding attacker. An email was sent out to all students at the university advising them to call the police if they've had anything similar happen to them. Cleveland police on the case trying to track down the attacker. Athens police are investigating after a man's accused of shooting his wife during a domestic dispute. Reports say the man and his wife were arguing over the custody of their kids at the man's grandmother's house when she rammed the gate of their neighborhood, hitting the grandmother in the process. Cops say the husband then fired one shot, hitting his wife. The investigation's still ongoing. The suspect was arrested after a stabbing at College Hill Courts. 44-year-old Baron White accused of getting into an argument with Oscar Billups on Mr. Billups' front porch when he pulled a knife and stabbed him. Police say they found a bloody knife and a blood-soaked T-shirt at the scene. Russell Stroud, Chattanooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Expect mostly cloudy, warm, but mainly dry weather out there for your afternoon. High settling into the lower 80s tonight. Some leftover clouds feeling tropical, lows only near 70. For Wednesday, cloudy, breezy, highs 80 to 82 with a few passing showers Wednesday night through Thursday morning. Get ready for the Wings Over North Georgia Air Show this Saturday and Sunday at the Russell Regional Airport in Rome, featuring the U.S. Air Force F-22 Raptor and A-10 Warthog. For tickets, wingsovernorthgeorgia.com. And I'm Source Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ford.
Radio 92.7.
Listen to that. That's the sound of power and the call of the open road. That's the sound of the newly designed 2019 Indian Chieftain Limited. Yeah, Indian. It's more than a bike. It's an experience and an American icon. The place to find it, Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga, along with their entire new 2019 line. The open road is calling. Answer the call. Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign on 153 and Amnicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 12, right here on Nooga Radio.
For your small business, ending the year the right way can set you up for success come January. No need to let end-of-year panic set in. Easy Books and Taxes can help set up your books or new payroll service so that you can relax and enjoy the holiday season. With 35 years, bookkeeping, individual, and business tax preparation, it's easy. With Easy Books and Taxes, you run the business, we keep the books. Call us today at 423-755-0821.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
I really like the Christian concept of redemption, because with redemption, what you have in effect is the buying back of something that is lost or broken. The Lord dies for his children and redeems them. He buys them back from slavery. The slavery, of course, is that of sin, the fall from Adam affecting every man. Adam, the first federal head, you could say, with the Lord Jesus being the second federal head and redeemer, buying men out of their servitude to sin. And also, as we're seeing in the story of mankind, buying men out of the servitude of servitude to other men. That is to say, the rise of democratic institutions across the globe, the rise of liberty, the concept of liberty exercised in the early Hebrew Republic, and also at the time rediscovered, if you will, at the time of the Reformation. Buying back men from servitude and slavery to other men. And here in this country, we had the end of slavery by a war among the states, and a redemption of black men so that they could own themselves effectively, unlike their prior state, prior to manumission, where they were owned by their masters. Redemption is an important concept. That's why we think about that in terms of the economy, the idea that you have irredeemable paper money that cannot be redeemed. In other words, you have money, currency, which does not let you have a claim upon real money, right? You can't go to a bank with a piece of paper with a 1 written on it and come out of that bank with a coin of silver that's called a dollar. There is no redemption in the currency. And so we are being shafted and impoverished by the paper money scheme. Well, there is a school here in Chattanooga called Redemption School of Ministry, and a recent graduate is Rodney Cameron. He's 26 years old. He lives in the Avondale Glenwood area in the area of Memorial Hospital. And I want to ask Rodney about why what his goal is, what his mission is. There's a mission he has in mind, and it touches on the family in general, I guess in abstract, but also families here in Chattanooga.
Yes. Graduated from Redemption School of Ministry, where I'd like to give honor to Pastor Kevin and Devin Wallace at Redemption to the Nations Ministries. And but I was on this journey because of Kings of Legacy. I know that in my lifetime, I kind of went back and forth and bickered, and I would say even struggled and overcome obstacles with my family. And I began to realize how vital it was for that foundation to be established as a family unit, because there are so many more things that we don't see as far as the family unit is concerned that helps that young man or that young woman become and be successful in so many different ways.
So without a strong family, a young person is less likely to be successful or won't be successful?
I would say that they can be successful. They can defy the odds. Let me say that first. But I believe that foundation gives them more support to be able to become who they're supposed to be.
Well, what kind of encouragement does a particular family, let's say living in the Glenwood area, need? What practically can be done to encourage that family to be more of a family and less a grouping of individuals with the same family name?
According to myself, I grew up in a single family. Well, I grew up with both of my parents, is what I'm trying to say, with my mom and my dad, exemplifying the covenant of marriage. And so with me seeing that exemplified before me, of course, I have a son, but at the same time, I desire to have that family unit. I desire to have that structure so that my son can have the support needed. And I think that some of the things that we can take away from this situation would be the fact that for family first is a business. And we don't think of it like that. You have to provide, I mean, as speaking for the man of the family, the man has to provide a structure for his family. He has to provide guidelines for his family. He has to provide a vision for his family. But more importantly, he has to work the plan of that vision, because if from him being the man, if he does not work that plan, then the family goes nowhere.
Go on.
So this is what I suppose, teaching young men and individuals how to, teaching them the value of the family organism, teaching them the value of the family organization and what it means and how to value it more, because I believe that needs to be brought back in today's time. And I believe that if we get back to that place of redemption, as we first initiated this session with, that things will become a whole lot better, that things will become perpetuated, that we will be able to move forward a lot faster.
So Chattanoogans need to find a way for families to be redeemed. The city or the people in the city, the members of the city, the residents of the city who are in families, many of them need to do something, Rodney Cameron, to restore the idea of the family, and you might say its integrity. Well, where has that integrity been damaged? How is it damaged to now?
I believe that it hadn't been damaged. I believe that it has been tarnished. Tarnished in a capacity that when you have some, and I say that from a place of if you have something valuable, let's say gold or a piece of gold that overlays something, if you don't polish that, or if you don't keep that up to standard, then it begins to be rusted or rustic. And so when you polish something, you maintenance it, you make sure that it's well kept. And I believe that if we just like that piece of gold would keep our family maintenance, if we would keep our family uplifted, if the man would keep guiding the family, then we would be more prone to see that depiction of family values and legacy demonstrated.
Well, you mentioned twice here now, Rodney Cameron, that men are, you give a high role to the head of the family, the man. How have men neglected their duty in the past decade? And how has that affected people in your neighborhood?
I don't think so that it's been so much every man, let me say that. But I think that from the situations that I've encountered, that men have not done the best job of maintaining the family unit and protecting them. I know some great men, but I also know some men that have made mistakes. And I think that we should learn from those mistakes as men, as leaders of the society, to move forward in our communities.
And what's the role of the church in this process?
The role of the church in this process is to care and tend for the community as well. I think that it takes, as been said, it takes a village to raise a child. And so it's not just one family, but it's multiple families chipping in as the man provides, as the man and the woman provides the clarity and the layout of the role to move and push this thing forward as we see it today.
Well, I would think, Rodney Cameron, that your ideas are hostile to socialism, and the people who have made that statement, Hillary Clinton, I think, made it famous. They are effectively socialists. They don't believe in the family except as a kind of department of the state.
I beg to differ. And the reason is because when there was no democracy or in any form of republic, the way that they used to do things were based upon family, and that was the government was based upon a kingdom. And so I believe that we can take some values from the kingdom and still apply them in today's society and see them work.
So in what way does the Christian analysis support the idea of it takes a village to raise a child? Where's the Christian content in that discussion?
It takes a village to raise a child. I believe because family, when you talk about family, it's not just talking about one unit. It's talking about the DNA or a structure of the makeup of a lineage. And so when you begin to talk about a lineage, you're talking about the things that are being passed down from generation to generation, such as values and morals and moral competence and all these things. And that's what makes up our business structures. That's what makes up our families. That's what makes up our governments, or at least it should be.
Well, okay, the socialist who uses that statement would say, well, we need to have a web of social services that are funded by taxpayers. We need to have public schools. These are how children are separated from their parents and are given the proper civic ideas of our day. We don't want them to be We don't want them to be narrow-minded and bigoted and religious. We want them to have a public view of things and to be properly socialized. That is what the village concept is from the Hillary Clinton types. And well, where is the Christian content though in that sense? Are you supporting the idea of neighborhoods having more influence, of people in neighborhoods having more influence on children's lives than now?
Yes, I believe that we can have more influence than we have had in the past. And I believe that we will have more influence in the future than we have in the past.
Well, what is the role of public school in your program?
The role of public school in the program is to still educate our children, is still to push them forward and to exhaust their potential, of course. But I believe that even some systems can be tarnished. And I believe that we can do a better job as a community to make sure that in our communities and in our schools that we can push that forward and that we can still make that better.
Does Redemption School of Ministry believe that public schools are normative, right, and true and good? Or does it teach that public school is hostile definitionally to Christianity and the family?
By no means do Redemption School of Ministry teach that schools are hostile. And I believe that we still support that forum. And the reason why is because we support education. But I believe that everybody has a different perspective on what education looks like. And so I wouldn't say that one is better than the other, but I believe that pushing forward together that we can accomplish something greater than individually.
Well, let me just back away from my implied attack on statist education and statist schooling by saying, well, what about the idea of schooling per se? Schooling per se puts the role of teaching in the hands of experts, employees, and we live in the internet age, and the PDF, one could say, has made obsolete the idea of the lecture hall. So we have Khan Academy, we have all kinds of ways of getting knowledge to people for virtually nothing. Mm-hmm. Lectures, books, whatever you want is really available at almost no cost. So there's the price of schooling has gone down, the price of education has gone down, and so is not schooling, not necessarily public schooling, but schooling per se, schooling as an industry,
right?
Is that not somehow disturbing of the rights of families to govern and train their children? Rodney Cameron.
I think that the school does a profound job, but I still think that after school, there still should be teaching and governing and bettering and all that stuff. And I believe that that's where the community has to step up and take its role.
Would you encourage my listener who has his children in public school to leave them there, Rodney?
I would, if that's where they feel that their child is getting the best education. But as said, I believe that we still have a job to do after schooling is over.
And what job is that?
To still educate and still help them to maximize their peak potential.
Well, now tell me a little bit more about other things that you got from your training at Redemption School of Ministry. What other ideas do you have that are ones you're going to be working on, Rodney?
Well, my experience at Redemption School of Ministry was nothing shy of greatness. And I do believe that the mission for Redemption School of Ministry is to take ministry to the marketplace. And by doing so, I believe that we have to train and be taught. And also we have to exude that manifestation of who God is in the marketplace, not only by talking about it, but by being about it.
Caller, this is David Toulis, and you're talking with Rodney Cameron. What's on your mind?
I hear a lot of ambiguous buzzwords coming from your guests. But can we agree that free enterprise or capitalism is the best system and that it's brought man out of poverty, where you can get anything you want at any time and you have multiple choices? I think we can probably agree on that, right?
I think we can agree to disagree, and I think that we have.
Okay, wait. Well, no, that's a yes or no. So if we're disagreeing, I made an incorrect statement that socialism is better, and you can give me an example.
I don't think that we're viewing this from the full spectrum. I think that we're viewing it from one lens.
No. I asked you. You're not answering my question. You're trying to talk around it. Because you can agree, and we can agree that I'm right. You know I'm right. In that competition in the free market is the best way to do things, because socialism is just a bunch of stupid bureaucrats taking my money and redistributing it. Why can't we then, when the government steals your property tax dollars, put that up for bid and let private industry compete? Since I can choose where to eat, where to buy my shoes and clothes, but not where to have my kids dumbed down in government institutions of lower learning. And by the way, the definition of education is to give proper moral, physical, and intellectual instruction. And since God can't be in the schools, there's no education, it's schooling. School someone how to be a mass murderer.
But have you viewed the system of education prior to the system that we have now?
Well, how long is the system we have now been
It wasn't
going?
education. The government is never educated. Since the turn of the century, they've schooled, they've propagandized. The purpose of it in the 1900s was to turn you into a worker. And I'll give you proof positive. Most self-made millionaires don't have a high school diploma because they don't want you smart. They want you to work like me. All you know how to do is push the buttons and get your job done, and then you live paycheck to paycheck. That's how most employees live. That's how you're taught.
Okay,
you're not taught how to be an entrepreneur, how to make money, how to gain wealth, because the system wants you down. I don't care if you're black or white. So don't you think the better system is free enterprise and competition? Because that's shown man to come out of his shell to be the best he could be, not a bunch of government bureaucrats.
Okay,
and that was the answer. You know, you use the word community. What the hell does that mean? Working together. What does that mean? All these buzzwords. I hate buzzwords.
Okay,
be specific. Stop your buzzwords.
All right, Mike.
I listen on the radio.
Go ahead. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Rodney.
And I would say that was the reason why I said that it takes a village to raise a child. And even after the educational system is done, or even after our children, get out of school, we still have a job to do of continuing education.
Well, if your child has been in the public school, Rodney, is he properly educated or is he just schooled? And do you have to unteach what he learned in school, or do you add to the good and solid and right and righteous things he learned in public school?
I guess
that's the question.
I think that you add to, I mean, there's still a molding phase there. I believe that that's very touchy, because there's still a molding phase there that you have to do. And they're still, they still have to be molded and taught outside of the school barriers. And I believe that's why so many of our children fall away or fall through the cracks, is because there has been no additional education.
So they're getting in school, they're just getting evolutionism and materialism and progressivism. That's what they're getting. The state is the answer to all things. All the histories are taught in terms of the superiority of the state over the individual and over the family and over private associations and churches. We're talking with Rodney Cameron. David Toulis here, and he is a graduate of Redemption School of Ministry. Caller, what's on your mind?
I normally don't call back twice when I screw up. If I hear this village to raise a kid one more time, no village had to raise me. What, a bunch of village idiots? Come on, man. People need to learn themselves. You know, if you teach someone how to learn, you don't need a bunch of village idiots interfering with his life. Teach them how to be learned. Teach them how to read, how to write, critical thinking, not village idiots. It takes a village to raise an idiot. Bye.
Go ahead. Well, teaching reading is not something that's a high priority in public school, but we're getting here. Rodney, our caller is effectively condemning public schools for making people not distinct, not their individuality, not come out, making them sort of drone-like and docile and subservient and compliant. That's the kind of person that seems to be in view in that call. What is your Christian teaching and your Christian bearing say about that in your ministry goals?
It says that you have to still continue to educate yourself. And I believe that life is a classroom. And I believe that you have to go into the phase of self-discovery to understand what you're great at and understand how to work your greatness. It's not up to the school to cultivate greatness. It's up to home and the community around you to cultivate greatness. And when I say home, I mean your family unit to cultivate that greatness.
Well, what do you have personally, Rodney, in view for yourself with your own ministry goals? You are, where do you make your living now, Rodney? And what's in the future?
I do several things, but from Redemption School of Ministry, pastoring, of course. entrepreneurship, which I'm involved in right now, and speaking. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a minister, and pretty soon to be an author or an author.
And what's your book title and argument?
It's called Modern Day Thermostat, and it's talking about being effective where you are. It's talking about exuding that greatness that penetrates through every stigma or every bit of stigma that has been placed on one's life.
Well, are families weak today, Rodney Cameron, because of the state, or are they weak because of media? Are they weak because of tax burdens? Where are they? I would say they're damaged. You say they're just tarnished. I'd say they're damaged. Where is the damage? And you have just about a minute.
I say that it's everything starts at home.
David Lewis, we've been talking with Rodney Cameron. He's a recent graduate from Redemption School of Ministry. Rodney, thanks for joining us. He is working on many ministry projects and books, and also in the entrepreneur field. David Lewis, the number to call is 800-8949, 800-8949. And I've got some important messages for you. Be back in just a zip.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Morris Fenton is accused in a home invasion assault. He was also investigated in a homicide case. It happened Thursday. 39-year-old Fenton is accused of breaking into his ex-wife's house with his cousin on Standifer Gap, wielding a gun and a baseball bat. The new husband was beaten with the bat, and the ex-wife was shot twice, but she survived. Police believe Fenton was also involved in a homicide earlier in the year. The town of Dunlap in mourning after a sudden and unexpected loss. The Dunlap Fire Department confirming in a Facebook post. Vice Mayor and City Manager Jeff Johnson suddenly died after suffering an allergic reaction to a bee sting. And he was on the TBI's top 10 most wanted list. Now he's in jail. 23-year-old O'Shea Williams was captured in Detroit, Michigan. Williams is accused in the murder of Cortez Alford on Arlington Avenue in July. Williams will remain in custody in Detroit until he can be extradited to Chattanooga. Val St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News now.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM.
Cash, 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 and more cash. Get 8.1% return on your money. Rick Davis can turn your cash into real money. Gold and silver bullion. American Eagle Gold. The banks give you a measly 1.9%. At Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, you'll get 8.1% return on your money. 8.1% return on your money. Wow! Whether you're buying an ounce or 100 ounces, Rick guarantees it in writing. 8.1% Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Rainer Road, Chattanooga.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick and money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
Join Nooga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
It's
It's that time of year again. For the 7th year, Wings Over North Georgia Air Show will be Saturday, October the 13th, and Sunday, October the 14th. You'll see some of our government's finest assets flying in the world today. The rarely seen Air Combat F-22 Raptor demo team and the A-10 Warthog will both headline the show, along with Tora, which is the reenactment of Pearl Harbor to include pyrotechnics. Patty Wagstaff and Michael Goulian, both world aerobatic champions, will be showing off their amazing skills, along with numerous other aviation rock stars. On the ground, you'll be able to experience military static displays and even have an opportunity to ride in a Huey or Cobra helicopter. Wings Over North Georgia is an action-packed way to spend a weekend with your family. You can even camp on the grounds. The Richard B. Russell Regional Airport is the place for all the action on October the 13th and the 14th. For tickets and camping reservations, visit wingsovernorthgeorgia.com.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anyway.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 12, right here on Nooga Radio.
Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect mostly cloudy, warm, but mainly dry weather out there for your afternoon. High settling into the lower 80s tonight. Some leftover clouds feeling tropical, lows only near 70. For Wednesday, cloudy, breezy, highs 80 to 82 with a few passing showers Wednesday night through Thursday morning. Get ready for the Wings Over North Georgia Air Show this Saturday and Sunday at the Russell Regional Airport in Rome, featuring the U.S. Air Force F-22 Raptor and A-10 Warthog. For tickets, wingsovernorthgeorgia.com. And I'm Swarm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ford.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
I think the all-time favorite post on Newgonomics.com is an essay by Rob Warnell, and the headline is "To Travel by Right, Defy Citation Under Administrative Procedures Act." And this is my platform where I digress, if you will, on important matters of the deep state and liberation therefrom. And it just occurred to me that it's an essay that says all traffic offenses can't be handled criminally. They are, in fact, administrative matters. And for the state to prosecute an individual person for a traffic infraction violates the very important rule called exhaustion of administrative remedies. In other words, if there's something that's administrative in nature that arises under an administrative law, it has to be handled administratively and civilly in-house. That is to say, in agency by an administrative law judge and not by a criminal court. And how it is that we've come to where contract disputes are handled criminally is really a remarkable story. And I don't know all the points in the history where that came about. But it is something that is a major change in American jurisprudence. Well, the name is David Toulis, and I'm thinking about that essay because I'm just sort of soaking in a letter to a recent post in economics from the gnome of Strawberry Plains, that is to say, John Ballinger, and he explains how it is that we lose our immunities. He likes to use the expression constitutional immunities, not rights so much as an immunity. An immunity is different from an exemption. For example, let's say in the realm of taxation, if you have, if you're tax immune, are you good? Okay. If you're tax exempt, are you better off or less well off? All right, that's the question. Well, it's better. You're right. It's better to be tax immune, because if you're tax immune, that means to say you have an absolute right to be free from some claim by a taxing authority or surveying authority about your activities or your personality assets or what have you, you're immune. When you're exempt, well, you can be exempt and then you can be not exempt, depending on the state of the law, depending on how Congress votes, whether things happen administratively or politically. To change the statute, you have an exemption 1 year, or the next year, well, you lose it because of a change of mood in the legislative body, and a change passed it by ordinance or law, then is signed by the chief executive. And well, there you go. You're not tax exempt anymore. You are taxable, and there's no way around paying the theft charge there, the government thieving from you. There's no legal way to obtain redress, right? Obtain relief from that. The gnome is saying, well, the whole scheme in the travel driving situation and many others is that we are not exercising rights anymore. We're not protecting immunities, but we enter into an equitable relationship with a government agency of some kind under a presumed liability, a liability that doesn't really exist on our part, but we somehow think that it does, and so we yield to the importunities, threats, and claims by the government officer. Now, if that's all done orally, it's easy for them to get away with it. And my comment, the undiscerning, is always, well, make sure you say, sorry, I will not talk with you about that. Send it by letter to me, care of my attorney. That's all you have to say. And that forces the other party to commit to making statements on paper about the scope of the law or the regulation that he's ostensibly wanting to impose upon you. He says, the problem we have with government enforcing their administrative scheme is we unknowingly consent into this trap they have set for us. You consent into the trap when you make an application for their administrative license, and you consent, that's one. And two, you consent to appear in court when you sign one of their traffic citations. And then three, you consent to appear in the court of non-record general sessions. That's, of course, in Tennessee. And you can waive this court and demand to be tried by indictment, not by citation. He says that signing the citation is the same as a conviction. Do you really think the court will take your word over that of the police? And then there are two more points. The fourth one says, if you do not sign the citation, you are taken to jail because of what you're charged, not because of what you're charged with, but for refusing to give your consent by not taking the citation. What kind of law, he says, makes it a criminal offense for refusing to sign the traffic citation? It can't be based on your consent. In jail, you do not consent to anything. And he says that, well, what he does is he's been in jail numerous times, this man who exercises a right to travel. He's a carpenter, and I call him the gnome of Strawberry Plains, a man who has a fabulous library that he wants me to take over for him. And the time I was planning to go up there to the Knoxville area to meet with him and maybe give him some money. He short of money, a carpenter whose shoulders are in bad shape from years on the job, and of course not a man in the system. So he has only private means of succor, private means of aid and resources. Though he has a son in the insurance business, and so he is a non-compliant, non-cooperative person when arrested. And does not sign the citation, but said, well, you're going to have to arrest me because I'm not signing that. I maintain all of my immunities, and I will not brook to be taken by your sessions court. He says, being booked, I will refuse to answer any questions. My only statement is, I owe you nothing and you owe me nothing. I do not consent to what you're doing. He says they will automatically refuse to give any jail necessities, no blanket, no towel, no washcloth, nothing. I'll even refuse their food and water, no consent to their administrative scheme whatsoever. So the question is of consent. Now, the question I have for you here on the David Tully Show is this, and you hadn't really thought about it, but when you're on the road there at the stoplight down there by the interchange here in East Ridge, and you see a truck pulling up next to you at the light, and he's got some DOT numbers and some black block letters on the side of his door. Let me ask you this: how come you don't have a DOT number on your car? Why do you not have that? Well, and let me ask you this: why are you not required to file reports with the with city government in Chattanooga? If you live in Chattanooga and you're using a car, how come you're not subject to the Tennessee Passenger Transportation Services Act, which is binding on all cars theoretically, right? Well, you don't have a DOT number and you don't have don't make submission to the transportation department in Chattanooga because you're not involved in transportation. Now, you say, well, okay, am I not transporting myself when I go to church? Am I not transporting myself when I go to Aldi to spend $70 on groceries for just a few things, and I'm ending up getting more than I had planned to, and out goes a $50 bill and a $20 bill. Well, you're not involved in transportation. In fact, you are simply moving on the road in your private chattel, private property, which is your car. Now, the scope of authority for this act, which has, and I get this from Justin Strickland. He gave me the rules for this department in Chattanooga, the rules for the use of cars, regulable use of cars in Chattanooga. And it's a very detailed discussion. I'm trying to remember the number of pages, either 95 or 140, something like that, of rules you have to follow if you're involved in transportation. But this particular Tennessee statute says that every municipality or other government entity is authorized and empowered to protect the public health, safety, and welfare by, okay, here's what happens now: licensing, controlling, and regulating by ordinance or resolution each private passenger for hire vehicle providing transportation services operated within the jurisdiction of the municipality or other government entity. So you're subject to the city transportation department through licensing if you are involved in transportation, which is to say private passenger for hire activity, and that's called transportation services. And everybody going into this business, including taxi cabs, have to submit, right? You have to ask for permission to do what you, my listener, do, right? You're not involved in that. You don't have a dot number on the side of your car, and you've not made submission to the city through the transportation department. Why? Oh, why not? Well, the reason is you're not involved in transportation. Now, this is kind of a sticking point for a lot of people, including Demetrius Coonrod on the city council. She got a letter from me yesterday, and I as did the other city council members. I took the time out of my very busy morning to say, okay, this story in Nuganomics.com, it's not the Rob Warnell story about administrative notice. It's a different one. The one I posted yesterday, a piece of literary property that is, I would say, not hot as far as mass readership, okay, but it is very important. And I thought I'll send this in the body of an email to the city council members, including Demetrius Coonrod, because it is part of my reform effort where I'm highlighting the limited scope of the statute, Title 55, and saying, well, the city is over-enforcing it, right? That's putting it very mildly and very gently. It is over-enforcing it, pretending, and here's what it's pretending that everybody in the city and everybody passing through the city, living here or passing through, is involved in transportation. And of course, we're looking at the city's own rules and the state statute, which gives cities the authority to license passenger transportation services, which of course is the use of the car as a motor vehicle for hire, right? And these by whom? By people who are called drivers and operators in the state law. I mentioned this because I hadn't seen this statute before, and I'm glad that Mr. Strickland passed along these rules to me, which I'd looked at before. Now, there's something else in the next statute: action on behalf of the state and the question of immunity. Any municipality or government entity authorized to carry out this part as acts of government on behalf of the state as sovereign. Okay. Don't you love that part? As sovereign, to the extent the governmental entity deems necessary or appropriate. And here's the killer: even if it is anti-competitive in effect. And it goes on to talk about the immunity of the state of Tennessee from liability is hereby extended to any city or town. So if you're a city or town and you have businesses that use the road as their principal place of hire, right, in Chattanooga. Chattanooga has the authority through its transportation department to regulate and tax and give rules for those people carrying those goods or people for hire in the city. So there is a city claim upon that activity. The claim, again, the pretended claim, of course, for protecting public health, safety, and welfare by licensing, controlling, and regulating each private passenger for hire vehicle. So again, we're not talking here about goods, but the moving of people around in the transportation field. And I'd say it's important to remember, because these are people who have to have a DOT number on their car, if not federal, at least the state equivalent under this statute, and also through Title 55, the transportation statute. So what is Title 55? Mrs. Coonrod would like to know. Darren Ledford would like to know. Chip Henderson would like to know. What is Title 55 and how does that affect us? Well, it affects us because through that title, the police department in every incorporated area does the same thing. It gives a lowered barrier for search and seizure. And it is the search and seizure activity of the police, which is why they exist. They exist for search and seizure. They exist for intimidation. This is the history of that part of government, right? State government, local government, national government. It is behind that, you could say, the subtext, could say the super text, the text that's over the text, is executive government, which of course is you might say the antichrist form of government, as opposed to the common law, pro-Christ, pro-Christian, pro-freedom type of government that is envisioned and promised, right? And promised by Christianity, promised by God for those who love him and those who fear him. Those people who do will have freedom and liberty and prosperity. They will have free trade, right? They won't have the kind of trade that we had under NAFTA, and they won't have the kind of trade that Ron Paul points out under President Trump is not free trade. It's more of the same, more managed trade by the good people and their international organizations. What we have with policing is a distinct and unusual and disturbing claim upon society. The ability of a man to tell another man to get on his knees, right? To put your hands up. I mean, all against people who have done nothing wrong. They're not. No one's seen any of these people who are so addressed by officers have done crimes. I have seen video after video of people being stopped for looking the wrong way, for looking an officer in the eye as he passed by and the crews are going the other way. The cop turns around and says, I want to talk to you. There's something challenging about the way you looked at me. I think you may be involved in criminal activity, right? Encounter after encounter after encounter. And Title 55 is the gateway to many of these encounters. And my proposal is that the city reduce its liability, that it maintain its respect for state sovereignty, right, under Title VII, that it respect state sovereignty and not impose a duty or claim upon people that the state, through its wisdom, through its own statute created by the General Assembly, does not propose to impose upon, right? The state statute is a foot wide, and Chattanooga and East Ridge, Saudi Daisy, Red Bank impose a 2-yard wide enforcement regime upon people in their free movement. And this is a, we don't have to talk about it more. We mention this every now and then here on the show, on the David Tula Show, but it is a project, and it is one that requires, I'm guessing, 5 years. 5 years, things will be pretty secure. Things will be freed up, possibly in the Chattanooga area, and other jurisdictions across Tennessee will be taking note of transportation and administrative notice. By the way, make note of Saturday. Just a few days out, we've got another edition of We've Got You Covered Radio. That's right here at 92.7 FM every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. It's our newest show. And you can meet Scott Schrader and encounter his numerous guests, all of whom are home experts, home repair, home remodeling, home investment type experts on repairs and improvements, saving money, doing good by your primary investment. That is to say, your home. Brought to you by Chattanooga Roofing Contractors. Make sure you tune in. That's Saturday morning. That's an off-speed day anyway. You're doing unusual things. Just flip the radio on that day too, and tune in. Now, Saturday and Sunday, we've got at Russell Regional Airport, just south of the border, we've got Wings Over North Georgia Air Show, and we're going to be there live. Wings Over North Georgia Air Show. You can get your tickets at wingsovernorthgeorgia.com. That's wingsovernorthgeorgia.com. Not too expensive. We'll be broadcasting live from the air show on Facebook and also here at the station. And my name is David Toulis. I do thank you for giving me just a minute of your time. So just to mention that that transportation services statute, there is you might say in ways that this whole project, my whole notice project, is just extraordinarily complicated. Well, it is. The more I think about it, the more I discover that I can discuss and bring out to you. You can find out more at our chief sponsor. That's Nuganomics.com. And the story came out yesterday, and the headline has, just over the headline is a photograph from January of maybe 15, 18 cadets graduating. They had their hands in the air, and guess what they're doing? They're taking the oath of office to uphold before God the Constitution of the state of Tennessee, and maybe also the federal Constitution as well, where your innumerable rights are enumerated to some extent, and they're doing that. And I'm saying that the idea that they're going to be told to go out by the Mayor Andy Burke, and by his subordinate David Roddy, the chief, to go out and enforce Title 55 as if it were a 2 foot wide statute, or no, a 2 yard wide statute, and it's actually only a foot wide. That is a problem. That is a problem. Two directions. On one direction, it's a problem because you, my listener, may be injured by this. You may be arrested, right? You may be involved in human trafficking, a victim. And the problem goes the other way because the officer is personally liable for that tort. That is a tort. That is a wrong. And criminally, it would be something that could be easily located in the Tennessee oppression statute, which is a good statute. We have a very good statute, very good law in our state that prohibits and bans oppression. And the trigger for oppression is that the officer knowingly and intentionally violated your rights. So we want to make sure that if an officer arrests you under Title 55, apart from your being accomplice, that he will be doing so knowingly and intentionally, which means that it's an oppressive act. So that's something that we're probably going to have to talk to Neil Pinkston about, because he is the steward of the law here, the state prosecutor. He needs to be apprised of this problem that I'm bringing to your attention here. At no charge, totally no charge. David Toulis, Nigger Radio.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Morris Fenton is accused in a home invasion assault. He was also investigated in a homicide case. It happened Thursday. 39-year-old Fenton is accused of breaking into his ex-wife's house with his cousin on Standifer Gap, wielding a gun and a baseball bat. The new husband was beaten with the bat, and the ex-wife was shot twice, but she survived. Police believe Fenton was also involved in a homicide earlier in the year. The town of Dunlap in mourning after a sudden and unexpected loss. The Dunlap Fire Department confirming in a Facebook post. Vice Mayor and City Manager Jeff Johnson suddenly died after suffering an allergic reaction to a bee sting. And he was on the TBI's top 10 most wanted list. Now he's in jail. 23-year-old O'Shea Williams was captured in Detroit, Michigan. Williams is accused in the murder of Cortez Alford on Arlington Avenue in July. Williams will remain in custody in Detroit until he can be extradited to Chattanooga. Val St. John for Nuga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7. Nuga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect mostly cloudy, warm, but mainly dry weather out there for your afternoon. High settling into the lower 80s tonight. Some leftover clouds feeling tropical, lows only near 70. For Wednesday, cloudy, breezy, highs 80 to 82 with a few passing showers Wednesday night through Thursday morning. Get ready for the Wings Over North Georgia Air Show this Saturday and Sunday at the Russell Regional Airport in Rome, featuring the U.S. Air Force F-22 Raptor and A-10 Warthog. For tickets, wingsovernorthgeorgia.com. And I'm Sworn Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ford.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Buying a home is one of the most exciting things you will ever do, but it can also be scary and nerve-wracking. I'm Melanie Moore, owner and certified master inspector